Hey everybody, welcome back to Tech Odyssey. So today I'm here with a really cool phone, the BlackBerry Passport SE edition. So they originally came out with the BlackBerry Passport in 2014. They had the black model, then they came out with the white, they came out with the red. This one came out a little bit later in 2015, and they changed things up a little bit. You know, it's still the same phone, the same keyboard, same screen, but they've got this steel frame on it. Of course, it's silver looking, and put some texture on the back, all those fancy things. It really is a nice phone. It's built well, it's built like a tank, and it looks unique. You really don't see anything like this out in the world today. So what I wanted to do is go ahead and dive in and take a look at it in 2020 and have a look at it just because it's a cool device, and two, talk about whether it's still feasible to use today in 2020 if you're still interested in a phone like this. Now, before we get into the video, I do want to say, if this is your first time stopping by the channel, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button. And if you want updates on the latest videos, hit the little notification bell so you can get a pop-up when a new video comes out. Now, with all that being said, let's take a look at the BlackBerry Passport SE. Alright, so the BlackBerry Passport SE edition, like I said, it came out about a year later than the original one. It was actually really cool at the time. I mean, the original Passport was cool at the time. It came out, it sold out within 6 hours. BlackBerry website, Amazon website, gone. So I was glad that I had my order in and I got mine, and I was super excited. I still remember that I was at work that day, and I actually came home on my lunch break because the FedEx person dropped it off, and I came home, I got it, I took it back to work, and then I was setting up and showed everybody off the phone, and everybody was looking at the phone and they're like, that's a BlackBerry? I'm like, yeah, it's a BlackBerry. And yeah, I got a lot of mixed reactions because this thing's gigantic. I mean, compared to the traditional BlackBerry with the smaller keyboard, the smaller screen. I mean, talking a 3-inch screen versus a 4.5-inch screen. I mean, there's a lot of fundamental differences, but at the same time, it's still uniquely a BlackBerry. Now, I don't have the largest hands in the world. I've never been able to palm a basketball. I can't really use large phones one-handed, so it really wasn't too much of a transition over to this, but really and truly, it's kind of hard to use one-handed, especially since it's got a physical keyboard for the typing and all that good stuff. But gorgeous looking device, 3-row keyboard. It's got the capacitive touch sensitive keyboard system. So this was the very first BlackBerry. So a lot of people are familiar with the Key 1, the Key 2, and the touchscreen, the touch sensitive keyboard. Well, this is what started it. And you can swipe left and right. You can see on a little demonstration there. It was really cool and very unique at the time. And people that didn't really care for BlackBerries, at least a lot of them that I showed the phone to, I showed off the keyboard, I showed the stuff, they were really impressed, but at the same time, they wanted their iPhone, they wanted their Android phone. I was still only using BlackBerry 10 devices back then. It was about the same time, I think, as the Galaxy S4 and the iPhone 6 came out about the same time. So there were still quite a few BlackBerries out on the market at that point in time. BlackBerry 10 was very, very integrated into the enterprise world, into business, into government. So a lot of people were still using them. And this gave you a little bit something extra. It wasn't just the regular BlackBerry experience. They put a Snapdragon, an 8 series, one of the very first series 8 Snapdragons in it. It had 3 gigabytes of RAM, so it bumped it up. The Z10 and the Q10 had 2 gigabytes of RAM and a 1.5 gigahertz processor. It was much faster, it was zippier, the core experience worked out better, games worked better. I mean, everything across the board worked better. And then when it comes to the actual experience itself, so they say, or at least they said back at the point in time, that ideally for reading books and stuff like that, ideally you wanted to be able to see 66 characters at the same time. This screen allowed to display up to 60 characters. So it really was geared towards business, towards reading, towards professionals. It wasn't something that was really marketed heavily towards social media. You never could get Instagram on here. Whenever the BlackBerry 10 phones first launched, I mean, you couldn't even get Android apps. Now they do have the Android emulation for Android up to 4.3, but it's still very limited. And even to this day, I mean, you can get some apps. You can go into the Amazon App Store, which is built into it. You can download those. You can still sideload some apps. So I was able to get like Spotify to work, speed test, a couple other games. It's very, very limited. Anything that requires Google services or advanced API stuff like Twitter doesn't even support it anymore, which is kind of frustrating me because 75% of the time I'm on the phone, I use Twitter. You can still use the browser on here. It has YouTube. It's kind of like a link. There's an icon for it, but really it just takes you to the YouTube browser. And it's still usable. So you can still use some of the core functions and features of the phone. Now, all the basic stuff basically still works. The App Store is pretty much a skeleton closet at this point in time. Now, if you actually had a BlackBerry 10 device and you had bought, purchased, downloaded apps previously, you can still access most of those. Even though you can't find them in the store anymore, you can go to your library in the BlackBerry store and you can still find them. So I actually have access to some apps that you can't get anymore. So for somebody starting from scratch nowadays, I really honestly wouldn't recommend this phone unless you just really want to try it out. If you used one before, you wanted to go back, or if you've got an iPhone or an Android that you're using as a primary phone and you just want this for like communication or a nostalgia effect or factor. Yeah, it still works. I mean, you can still use it. You can still use the core app functions. You can text, you can make phone calls, you can listen to Spotify through the Amazon App Store. You can download that, and you can use the browser. You can see here the browser is kind of limited, but you can still, you can go to Yahoo, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Best Buy. I mean, you can do stuff with it. It's not that it's a complete brick. It's just that compared to phones that are out nowadays that have the robust app systems, they're so much faster. I had a lot of memories of this phone, and then going back and using it now, it's like, well, it took like 3 minutes for Candy Crush to load up after I installed it, which I don't want to play Candy Crush anyway. I just wanted to show it off for the video. Cut the Rope 2, some other ones, it just takes forever to load. I couldn't even, like Yahtzee with Buddies was available on the Amazon App Store, and it wouldn't even load. So you're very limited with what you have the ability to use app-wise. So if you go into the experience knowing that you're going to have very limited functionality and you just look at it from an email perspective, from a texting perspective, and a communication tool, it's really nice. I've actually had my SIM card in this one for the last week, ever since I got it. And I have 2 SIM cards. So like today, I went out to the grocery store, or like if I want to go run some errands, or if it's on the weekend and I just want to be disconnected, it's nice having the functionality where my mom can get a hold of me, my wife can get a hold of me, anyone can call me or text me. But at the same time, I'm not sitting there just like fully immersed in my phone all day long. Like I'll sit there on Twitter for an hour or two, I'll sit there and play games. And they even have phones that are designed around these kind of experiences now with minimalism and distracted technology and stuff like that. So if you look at it from that perspective and you just want a phone that functions as a phone but has some still has some business tools, you can still read PDFs, you can still do all that stuff, then this right here might still be a great alternative or a second phone for you if you have a work phone and a personal phone. And a long time ago, that used to be a thing. I mean, when I grew up, my dad had 3 pagers. He had one for the school, he had one for the military, he had one for the volunteer fire department. He had 3 pagers, and then he got a BlackBerry, and then he had a work BlackBerry, and then he had a military BlackBerry. So there used to be a world that people lived in where you had multiple devices, and it kind of all got blended into one over the years because phones can do so much now. So if you still live in a world where you want to have a communication platform that's solely for work or business related stuff, there may still be a place for you. But for most people, 98.976% of the population, this really isn't going to help out most people. You're going to want to have a newer phone. So that's really kind of the limited use case scenarios I could imagine for something like this. But overall, it's still great. It's held up well. The hardware's good. It's got a 3450 milliamp battery, and it's got a 13 megapixel camera. The camera app is kind of slow and clunky. It'll still take pictures, but that's really not why you would want this phone. It's still nice. It's a good talking piece. Pulling this thing out in public, people look at you kind of weird whenever you've still got a phone like this. And it was very revolutionary and eye-catching when it first came out, but now in 2020, it's like you really get some questions about that, because first they're like, what is that? And then you tell them it's a BlackBerry, and then they're like, a BlackBerry? So it's kind of like reliving that all over again. But totally love this phone. And compared to the slab world or the world that we live in now, I mean, whenever you talk about touchscreen phones and all these gigantic platforms that we have, they all kind of look the same. You just have this big screen, you have a case on it. This is something that really stands out. It's unique, it's gorgeous, it's well built. It's just something that's kind of lost in phones nowadays, because nobody, I'm not going to say people don't try and design nice looking phones, but at the end of the day, all you're seeing is a screen and then whatever the back of the phone is. So this right here clearly is not going in a case. It is what it is. So of course there are the dangers of dropping it, scratching, and all that stuff, but it's got this nice textured back on it. It was a great improvement over the original one that was just the smooth back, and I really did drop it a couple of times. So great updates on the SE over the original version, and yeah, this is it. So if this is something you're interested in, they're very, very hard to find. You can only find them on resale. Fortunately, I had a friend of mine that sent this to me. He had it, and I've made so many BlackBerry videos lately. Of course, I've been making them for a long time. My very first ever YouTube video was an unboxing video of the BlackBerry Key 1 when it first came out. So he actually sent this to me for free, and I was like, you know, dude, you can sell this thing on eBay. And he's like, no, it's better off in your hands. I want you to have it. So thank you, Grant. I appreciate it. I'll put a link to his channel. He actually makes videos as well, but gave this to me, which is the only reason that I have it. I couldn't bring myself to go and spend the money to buy one, because people that sell them on resale, they want too much money for them. These are hard to find. And you know, the BlackBerry Passport is a 5-6-year-old phone now. So do you really want to spend $200 or $300 or $400 or $500 on one of these devices? It's not anything I can really recommend at this point. But overall, totally love this phone. It's a really iconic piece of technology, and I'm glad that I have one, again, to go with my BlackBerry collection. So thanks for watching the video, guys. I appreciate it. This is something a little bit different than what I've traditionally done when it comes to like reviews and things like that on phones, but you know, I like BlackBerries, and I really want to be able to make some videos to show you guys what these phones look like and what they can do, you know, down the road where we're at now in 2020. So thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like I said in the beginning, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates on the latest and greatest. And as always, I appreciate you being here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.